I'm Donnie Piercy, host of the Partial Credit Podcast, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to now. Shows on the network are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome to Fresh Air at 5, the podcast. I'm your host, Bryon Carpenter. Fresh Air at 5 is my regular attempt to exercise by walking about my neighborhood, to take in podcast content, then reflect in an unedited video, which I finally post to my Twitter channel. This podcast will be a regular collection of the audio from these selfie videos. You can follow me on Twitter at FreshAirAtFive or check out my website, BryonCarpenter.com, for other content I have created and collected. Hey PLN, happy September 1st, 2021, out here for Fresh Air at 5 this morning, and I am so thankful to be able to get up and get out the door and go for a walk. So much more than regular, my thankfulness is because in the past couple of weeks I've suffered from an acute medical condition that has rendered me pretty much bedridden for almost a week and a half, and only in the past 4 days or so have I been able to be up and moving around more than I was. My condition's getting better, and I'm thankful that I'm able to come out for my walk this morning, not moving as fast as I typically am, but that's not the point. The point is to get some fresh air, get some podcast learning on, and to be taking care of myself. And so this past week for me, it's been really hard to slow down. Really hard. Like, I get frustrated when I have to stop and can't do what I want to do being active. And so that's been a real hard thing. Important as we are in our space, that we take care of ourselves. If your body's giving you cues that you need to slow down, do so. Take that time. But also on the flip side of that, don't take too much time. Keep pushing yourself. So it's a balance about knowing yourself, and I am learning more about myself in the past couple weeks. And so yes, here for Fresh Air at 5 this morning, I'm going to push pause on this. This is the first segment of episode 35 of the podcast that'll be coming out a week and a half from now. So stay tuned for more in that episode, or just listen on the daily. I appreciate hearing you being here to listen on the daily. All right, I'm going to talk about a podcast that I just listened to, and I'm going to get to that in my One More Thing segment coming right up. So thanks for your thoughts, and if you weren't thinking them, even just know that I'm doing better. So I appreciate that. Thanks. One more thing for September 1st, 2021, out here for Fresh Air at 5. I listened to episode 39 of Science 360 with Tim Stevenson. Tim Stevenson, he's the author of a book that he wrote and that came out this past spring called Beyond the Classroom. And it's about Tim's educational journey and about being a passionate educator and learner in his space and how he has done what he has done. So take a look for that book, because I think it'll make a difference in your life if you take a read of it. But Tim, on his podcast, Science 360, was out recently on the West Coast Trail and had questions about wildlife, and ran into a park ranger who talked to him about bears, and he had questions about bears and wildlife. And the park ranger pointed him in the direction of Bob Hansen. Man, I'm getting run over and chased by dogs this morning. Who was a community coordinator with WildSafe BC, and Tim had the opportunity to talk to Bob for almost an hour about wildlife on the west coast of British Columbia and his experience with wildlife in general. And so take a listen to episode 39 called The Bare Necessities on Science 360 with Bob Hansen, and how Bob talks about his encounters with bears, talks about bear safety, talks about other wildlife creatures such as wolves and cougars that we have here on the West Coast. And we need to be aware that they are around us. They live in the forests around us. In my neighborhood here, we have bears that come through infrequently, but they're here, and we know that they're here, and we have to be mindful of those things, as well as cougars and wolves. So you want to get some education about these things so that when you go out into the forest, you're not nervous and scared. Doesn't mean we have to be just totally, carefree when we go out. We have to be aware of our surroundings because that's where they live, and we're guests in those spaces. So take care of the wildlife, take care of yourself, and do some learning. Thanks so much, Tim. I got one story to tell in just a moment. Thanks. One more thing for September 1st, 2021, still reflecting on the Bare Necessities, episode 39 of Science 360 podcast with Tim Stevenson. I wanted to tell a story about myself hiking with some friends back in the late 90s in Waterton National Park in Alberta, just on the south part of the province in the Rocky Mountains. And Waterton was reported at the time of having the highest concentration of grizzly bears in a national park. And so we went into the park knowing and being aware that there are bears around. And so we were coming down from a lake, and we were walking along an alpine lake, and we looked up, and being aware of our surroundings, we looked up, and there was a grizzly bear coming towards us. This grizzly bear is pushing over boulders that are the size of, sacks of flour sitting on the ground, looking for prey to eat and things to look for. He's foraging. And so we saw it, and he wasn't aware of us at that time. So we made some noise, and he looked up, and he turned around and went back down the valley. So that was our encounter that we had. It was at a distance, probably about 60 meters away, and he turned around and went back down the trail. We waited for a while and then headed down and proceeded to camp in that campground that night. We were very thoughtful and mindful about our activities and how we did what we needed to do, where we hung our food, where we slept and ate. And that was an important learning for us, to be thoughtful about the things that we know that we should do. The next day we ran into some day hikers, and one of the day hikers had an encounter with a black bear mama and her cubs, and was walking along the trail. And the key here is not paying attention, and she got into this bear's space, and the mama bear came at her and was backing her up in a hurry and took a couple swipes and scratched her leg. And so she won the bear encounter story. But the point is, be mindful, be aware of your surroundings when you're in the backcountry. Take a listen to episode 39 for more tips and tricks in the backcountry. Have a great day. Bye. Hey, PLN, Thursday, September 2nd, 2021. This morning out for fresh air at 5. I hit the street before 5 a.m. And as I stepped out my door and looked up into the southern sky, I saw my favorite constellation, Orion, the Orion constellation off to the south. And, I was like, wow, it's already fall. It's feeling fallish because Orion comes up in the fall. You see him in the morning, and he disappears when the sun comes up. But I saw that constellation. Pretty impressive. Love it. So take a look for yourself. Get up really early and look in the southeastern sky, and you'll see Orion the Hunter rising in the southern sky. So let me know if you do take a look. That'd be great. Drop me a tweet attached to this saying, hey, I saw Orion. All right. So this morning as I'm out walking, I listened to Got Tech, the podcast, episode 93, as Eric Geis and Nick Johnson bring us 10 questions teachers are asking at the beginning of the school year. And it's a great set of 10 questions. And they've been collecting questions from teachers from their work that they've been doing over the past 6 weeks. And you should take a listen to this list. I had some of those similar questions in my head rattling around, not really actually thinking about them, but going, oh, that's a good idea. And there's some great resources and ideas that they present and bring to us from this set of 10 questions teachers are asking. So that's episode 93. And it's getting dark here because it's still, the street light down here is burned out. So take a listen to that. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate your enthusiasm for learning and sharing. And if you need a podcast to listen to, take a good listen to Gut Tech, the podcast. If you don't, because they're always content rich. They've got lots of ideas for how to use technology and integrate technology in the classroom. It's not about lack of technology. It's about how to use that technology. That's the key. And why are we using that technology? All right, gents, have a great day. And appreciate you guys. And I've got 4 days until school officially starts here. We'll see you again. Bye. One more thing for September 2nd, 2021, episode 756 of the 10-Minute Teacher podcast with Vicki Davis. Vicki has guest on Victor Hicks, or Coach Hicks, who is an educator that works with K-5 schools in Atlanta and middle schools as well. And he uses Google Applied Skills to work and grow students' digital literacy in those schools. So how to use Google Applied Skills with students is the topic of this podcast. You should take a listen because there is a lot of resources that are available by Google Applied Skills that students and you as teachers can use with your students to teach the basics of these Google tools like Google Docs and Sheets and Slides. And those skills are transferable across many of the Google tool platforms. So keep that in mind as you are working towards the beginning of the school year, as there's a resource that's out there, created by Google itself for education, and that students can use and you can use with your students. That's it for today. Have a fabulous day, and we will talk to you soon. Actually, I might have one more segment in a little bit as I'm out delivering papers with my daughter later today. Happy Thursday. Bye. Later on the same day for September 2nd, one more thing. I'm out here delivering papers and enjoying the summer evening as it's coming to a close. And I listened to episode, I think it was 65 of the Ignite EdTech podcast. And so that episode number might be incorrect, but it's the episode where Craig talked with Dr. Sheldon Aikens about equity and about his growth of his equity podcast and the work that he's doing on bringing an awareness to the need for equity and caring for our students. So thank you, Sheldon, for the work that you're doing. Craig, for bringing Sheldon on to share that message and remind us about that as we step into the school year. I'm a few days away from that, and you can't be reminded enough that we need to take care of our students and that our parents can trust us with their kids. All right. That's it. I got another segment to come. Just 1 second. Okay, bye. One last thing for September 2nd, 2021, I took up and listened to Reflect Ed with AJ Bianco, and AJ brought us a reflection on this 2020-2021 school year and how he had processed and worked through the latter part of the year. We hadn't heard from AJ in a while, and AJ, I noticed, I was there. I was like, when's AJ going to record? And, not putting pressure on you, but, it makes sense because it was a thick and thorough year of working through how to do things during the pandemic and the effect that has on our mental well-being and how we process things. You asked me to think about 5 questions in us. And so the 5 questions are, what's something that you accomplished this past year? And I accomplished a couple things that I'm proud of. One was to consistently produce FreshAirAtFive, the podcast, and get out and walk every morning. And I felt really good doing so. And also I was able to, through that experience, bring my podcasting experience to my grade 11 students and had them podcast. And they created the AVS Junk Drawer podcast, which is out there on Anchor FM. And I was so psyched to be able to have them put their content out there. A biggest challenge was the challenge on myself was to be productive at every moment. And with COVID, our numbers of students at my school increased so much that I had a lot of students, and I'm not complaining about that, but it was also my face-to-face students that I needed to produce and provide quality content for so that they got the best education that I could bring them. what I learned about myself, I learned that I need to slow down and make sure that I don't work all the time. So I did. I would take breaks. I would go out hiking on the weekends. I would stop on a Friday afternoon and start again on Sunday night or so. Biggest impactors on my life were my students in my grade 11 class, the 7 of them, and they're fantastic. I appreciate them, and I'm going to see most of them again this fall as they come back. Those are my thoughts. Thanks, AJ. Peace out. Have a great day, people. Bye. Hey, PLN, Friday, September 3rd, 2021, out here for Fresh Air at 5, and the sun is on its way up, and will be up in probably about 45 minutes behind me, and so it's a beautiful morning. It's clear. I can see Orion off to the southeast, one of my favorite constellations in the sky, and yeah, I'm out here for my walk this morning, enjoying the fresh air. I have coffee with Stevenson coming up here in about 20 minutes. So I've got to make my way down the hill to the Starbucks that opened at 5 a.m. and meet him for coffee. So I'm excited about that. So I changed my walking route a little bit to accommodate me getting there at the appropriate time. All right, this morning as I'm walking, I don't know the episode number, but I listened to Educational Duct Tape podcast with Jake Miller. I think it's around episode 91, Jake, that you might have mentioned in the podcast, but you were a guest on your show. The mic was flipped, and Tony Vincent of Learning in Hand website, that's Tony Vincent. He also is the author and curator of Shapegrams, which Tony, I'm going to dig into this year with my students, my elementary students, and maybe a few of my middle school students. And I'm excited about the opportunity they have to learn some Google tools in a different way. So thanks for the work you've done there. I've heard about them for the past couple of years, but this year I'm going to dig in. So that's a thumbs up there. Okay, anyhow, Tony Vincent was the host of this episode of Educational Duct Tape, and Jake Miller was the guest. And so Jake talks about his new book that just came out called Educational Duct Tape, an integration technology mindset for teachers in the classroom, something like that. But it's a great, fantastic collection. And Tony and Jake, I haven't even cracked the cover yet. I got my copy in the mail a couple days ago. Super excited to take a look at that. But with school starting up, I'm gonna start reading it and work on that there. Got something else to say, hang on. One more thing for September 3rd, 2021, continuing my thoughts about episode 63, not 91, of the Educational Duct Tape podcast. Oh yeah, that's right. It's probably the 91st episode, but it's the 63rd proper episode with interviews and stuff like that. So that's where that comes in. Okay, so Jake Miller on Educational Duct Tape with Tony Vincent being the host. Jake talks about his book, and Tony asks him a bunch of questions and whether there's going to be a second book. And right now, Jake, I'm going to tell you right now, you put out a second book, I will buy it. I'm going to get it, and I love the way that you do what you do. And if your book it even resembles the way you do your podcast, I'm super psyched. The titles of the chapters that you guys reviewed were fantastic. You know, like there was beard, glasses, and handsome guys. And I figured this guy right here, I'll put my glasses on, hang on a second, gonna get those out, fits into that category. So there's the glasses on right there. I fit into that category, right? So, you as well. So we're a couple handsome guys. I'm looking forward to learning and developing my understanding of these tools with a side-by-side comparison of the tools. So people, Jake goes through 80 tools in this book, and there's not a chance in the world that as an effective teacher, you're going to be able to use 80 tools in your classroom. Not a chance. We talked back a while ago, Jake, about the tool belt and how a tool belt is different than a tool box, like a tool chest. in your garage even. You know, when you go out to do a job in the yard, you don't take your whole tool chest with you. You take a small handful of tools that go into your tool belt. That's exactly like educational technology. We can't use all the tools all the time. It overwhelms the users, the students, and our other fellow teachers. But what we can do is have awareness of those things. And so that's what I'm excited about your book, Jake. Thanks for that. People, go get Educational Duct Tape by Jake Miller. It's on Amazon. You can get it and take a read. Peace out, everybody. Have a fabulous day. Happy Friday. Thanks for taking a listen to episode 35 of Fresh Art 5, the podcast. And so this is my opportunity that I have to say thank you. I appreciate you being here and listening to the end. I wonder if you've listened to the end. I'm going to put a keyword in here, and if you tweet me the word giraffe, I will. Okay, here goes. I'm going to send you a sticker. I've got a new sticker that came out this past June for Fresh Art 5, and you tweet the word giraffe in your tweet, and then I will direct message you to get your address, and I'll get you a new sticker that came out in July for the podcast. All right, so thanks so much. Looking forward to it, and anticipate having to print more stickers. So I appreciate you being here. Tell your friends about this podcast, my eclectic little way of sharing my reflections on the things that I'm listening to, and maybe even just for myself, curating what I'm learning so that I can go back into my show notes even and go, oh yeah, that's when that was. And I can review my resources that I have listened to. Podcasting is a way to get professional development on the go. And my on the go is for my walking in the morning. And I have been doing this now for a better part of 2 years, and not recording the same way, but doing that for about a year. Thanks to the work the encouragement from Jeff Gargis of Teach Better Talk. And so, yes, here I am, out for getting some fresh air, some self-care. And as you may recall, earlier this week, I got back on the street after having a medical setback for a couple weeks. I'm feeling better, and I'm thankful for my health. Don't take that for granted. Get out there, get some fresh air, and have a fabulous day and week yourself. Bye-bye.
As my one word for 2021 is appreciate, I appreciate you giving me a listen as I've created this podcast experience for you. It's a unique Blinkist or Coles Notes version of the content I take in, like a highlight reel, so that you can hopefully find other interesting podcasts you may not have considered before. I've recorded the specific podcast episodes in the show notes for your learning convenience. Please subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming episodes. And if you enjoy this podcast and its format, share it with someone else. Tweet about your experience or give it a review on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to podcasts. Fresh Air at 5 can also be found on Voice Ed Radio. Your voice is right here, and on the Education Podcast Network, podcasts for educators, podcasts by educators. I hope you have a fantastic day and get some fresh air before the day is out, and take care of yourself because you're worth it.